die as to arrive safely at a desired destination. But today, the earth has become small, writes Nietzsche, and on it hops the last man. According to Zarathustra, the last man views safety and comfort as the root of all happiness. Life, like a red-eye flight, should pass as smoothly and painlessly as possible. "We have invented joy," exclaims the last man, and he blinks. Nietzsche's time in Basel had taught him that there was something deadening and artificial about this contentment, and as I looked around Logan, it struck me that little had changed in the 150 years since his escape to Sils-Maria. In fact, it was difficult to remember that Nietzsche had had high hopes for this country. The United States was the place, he thought, where individualism and freedom might actually take root. He wasn't entirely right about this. We stepped onto the airport terminal's moving walkway, which carried us past an endless line of snack shacks, depositing us at the entrance to a mall, where travelers could buy their essentials: inflatable neck pillows, electric blankets, phone chargers. The work of Nietzsche was nowhere in sight. Clearly, sometime in the last century, America had followed Europe's lead in exchanging beauty and risk for comfort and convenience. Nietzsche, however, believed that this obsession with maintaining some semblance of health was far from actually being healthy. Agreeing with the Roman historian and philosopher Tacitus, Nietzsche wrote, "In dealing with the human body, doctors have not much to say in praise of the patient who only keeps well by worrying about his health. Not being ill doesn't amount to much. If soundness is all you commend in him, he is really next door to an invalid." According to Nietzsche, there are two forms of health: the futile type, that tries to keep death at bay as long as possible, and the affirming type, that embraces life, even its deficiencies and excesses. By the time he reached the age of 30, Nietzsche was battling a host of physical ailments. While serving as a hospital attendant in the Franco-Prussian War, he had contracted diphtheria, dysentery, and what we now call post-traumatic stress disorder. And for much of the 1870s, he searched in vain for cures. As his professorship at Basel came to a close, however, Nietzsche had begun to reconceive the meaning of health. Returning to the ancient Greeks, he argued that their remarkable strength was born of agan, the friction of contest, which was far from comfortable. Being sick could be a condition to which one eventually succumbs, but it could also be a trial that is heroically endured. The Greeks, according to Nietzsche, didn't deny the existence of human suffering and limitation, but rather sought to transform them in art. In tragedy, characters lay hold of suffering and make it their own, claim it in such a way that failure and limitation become meaningful, indeed gloriously so. Human existence is cruel, harsh, and painfully short, but the tragic heroes of ancient Greece found a way to make the suffering and sudden endings of life beautiful or aesthetically significant. This is what Nietzsche meant in The Birth of Tragedy, when he claimed that the existence can be justified only as an aesthetic experience. Aesthetic experience, the experience of the beautiful and sublime, has often been regarded as beyond the purview of modern philosophers. As the scientific revolution gathered speed and tipped into the age of enlightenment, thinkers prioritized rational and moral ideals above all others. One's decisions and actions were to be guided by universal principles of prudence, logic, and reason, rather than by any vague pursuit of the beautiful life. By contrast, Nietzsche believed that a quest for aesthetic experience was the only way to mitigate the horror of existence. The Greeks understood beauty in its most robust sense, as a way of transforming agony and drudgery into something creative and enrapturing. There was no such thing as art for art's sake for the Greeks. The point was to come to see the tensions and contradictions of life, even the despised and the hideous, as one would take in a work of art. I glanced across the terminal to the flickering screens of a generic sports bar. The Tour de France was in full swing, and the riders, each of them powered by their own two legs.